Hey, welcome back to While You're In There. Um, so the build is done. I'm gonna go through startup procedure with you. One thing I want to mention though, with these flat tappet cams, you gotta have a high zinc brick and oil. And I got this stuff from my machine shop guy who did the block and the cylinder head and all that. Did that work for me? But this has a 2 times zinc formula in it. It's 10W30. It's made by Maxima. So if you want to screenshot this, I know you can get this at Summit Racing. You're not going to find this stuff in your regular auto parts store. But that high zinc is for the flat tappet cam. Um, and also, what my machine shop guy told me is that I'm going to have to go with another high zinc oil for the rest of the life of this engine. Um, it's not going to be a break-in oil, but it's going to be the same brand, Maxima. I'm going to go with. It's got a blue label on it. But you also find that at Summit Racing, and that's just to make the longevity of the cam last. Uh, but it has to have a high zinc content oil in it. At their fresh rebuild, a new cam and all that, kind of need that. Um, so anyhow, I did finish it. I finished everything. All the lights hooked up and all. I made videos on it, but I think my memory card is corrupted. So I actually made this video once before, and this is the second time making it because I keep losing my videos. So, so after this video, I'm gonna get a new camera. So hopefully this one stays on the card long enough that I can upload it. So anyhow, I took a lot of pride in doing this by myself. I did not have a helper at any point. So you can do it yourself. The only part I really struggled with, that took me about 3 hours to do it, was dropping the motor back in and getting all lined up on the splines and the transmission and getting the bolt holes all lined up right. So that was pretty frustrating. It took about 3 hours by myself again. But I just like to work that way because I've had people help me with stuff before, and either something's not doesn't get tightened, something gets over tightened, something is doesn't get tightened at all, and you got to go back and check everybody's work. So it just kind of like doubles the time of everything when you're having somebody help you. And it's your vehicle. You should be going over that stuff anyhow if you're having helpers. But what I would recommend, and I did not do this, but I would recommend for this first startup, is to have somebody out here with a flashlight. If you're in a garage like this, it's kind of dark, because you got to be in the cab when you're doing a startup. But I would suggest having a friend with a flashlight looking underneath, so when you do start it, checking for fluid leaks, oil, your antifreeze, whatever it may be, just to make sure nothing's spraying out or gushing out. Who knows if you forget to tighten something down, like a hose clamp on a radiator or something. You don't want it overheating. Oh, I'm gonna go over that with you too real quick because I did start this before. So I'll just have a helper looking around for fluid leaks while the engine is running, because you got to be in the cab. Now, when you first start it up, I cycled the key a couple times because the fuel lines were empty, but I cycled the key a few times without turning the motor over, just to get pressure in the fuel lines. So I did it 3 times. Just turn the key to your accessory to your on position, but not start it. And just let the fuel pump up. I did it. I cycled it on and off 3 times. Got the pressure in there. So when you start it up, you got to get on the gas pedal right away. It's a critical step for the life of the cam and breaking in your lifters to the camshaft lobes. You got to have the RPMs between, let's say, 1700, say 1800 to about 2200 RPMs. And you don't want to just stay at a steady spot. you want to like bounce it in between, so the needle's going up, bring it back down, up, do different spots. And the reason why that is because your crankshaft is down on the bottom of the oil, picking up the oil, and it's slinging it up, so it's flicking it up to the camshaft. And that's how those loads are lubricated, really. So that's why you want to get as much oil up there as you can. So 1,800 to 2,200 RPMs. Keep that motor revving up. If you can, do that for 20 to 30 minutes. Now, when I first started it, I could only run about 3 minutes. And my temperature went, it went up to 210, like the normal, straight up and down. And then suddenly it just shot all the way up into the red. Gauges come on, the bell was ringing inside. So I had to kill it. And what it was is there was so much air in the cylinder head and all the lines in that. I had to burp this thing a couple times. So I did it 3 times like that, going around 3 minutes at a time. I had to be on the gas pedal, in the cab. I'm watching that temperature gauge. I'm watching my oil pressure gauge. The temperature would shoot right up. It would climb normal, like to your 210 spot, but then a big air bubble gets in that spot where your air temp or your coolant temperature sensor is. An air bubble gets there, and it's like superheated air in there, so that's why the needle goes zoop way up real fast. So on my third attempt, I actually took the cap off. I cranked the heat inside the Jeep, which was rough because it's still pretty warm here. It made a mess of all the paint, all my nice painted parts and everything. I had to go back and clean it all up because it was kind of like, it was burping air out, so it's kind of like spitting out of the radiator. They do make a bleeder kit for that. I never used it. I just done it this way. I spent so much money on this thing, I was buying another tool just to burp the thing. I'll go into that in the next video, what it costs to build this thing. It's going to shock you. I bet it's going to shock a lot of you. But anyhow, watch your gauges. And, just to show you one more thing, what the antifreeze that I like to use, if you want to screenshot that, it's the Zerex G05 formula. And I'm not going to be able to show you here because it's so small. I can't even read it without my glasses. But it's got a Hoyt additive. It's HOAT, which stands for phosphate-free hybrid organic acid technology. And way back in the day, I read, it even says it out here, Chrysler Motors. I read way back in the day that these actually do take special fluid. Maybe because it's a 2003, I don't know. I know that's a transitional year for these 4.0s in these Jeeps. But it does take a special fluid, and it has to have that Hoyt additive in it. So that's the one I like to use. That's the Zerex G05 from Valvoline. Your auto parts store does carry that in there. And it's no more expensive than your regular antifreeze you're going to get. I do believe you can buy it in a 50-50 mix, but that's kind of silly because then you're just buying a jug that's 50% water. For the same price, you can get that full jug with full antifreeze and just dilute it yourself. So, I think I went over everything as far as the critical stuff for startup. So I'm going to go through the process with you now. Oh, yeah, but having a friend up, with a flashlight and look and watching the fuel lines, make sure there's no gas dripping down, make sure your fittings are still good. Another thing to look for, and just the obvious things, water or oil shooting or spraying from somewhere. Make sure you prime your oil pump before you start. I've read somewhere that people do it without priming a pump. I do not recommend that whatsoever. Supposedly it pumps up super quick if you just crank it, but I do not recommend that. What I did was where that distributor gear goes in, I went in there with the drill and with a flat bit, like a spade bit, and got it on that drive gear, that oil pump, and just spun it slow. It pumps up really quick when you're doing it that way. And then I actually went back and I just did it with a ratchet just to double check, make sure all my oil galleries on my rocker arms are getting good oil and everything. So that's all I can think of at the moment. So I'm going to grab this camera here and we will go through the startup. Oh, when I did start up the first time, it smoked pretty bad. And it was like a white smoke and it smelled funky. I didn't make the garage a cloud chamber or nothing, but it smoked pretty bad and it smelled just weird. It's not an oil smell. It's not like a burnt rubber smell. I don't know how to explain it. But I'm chalking it all up to all the break-in lubes that we used. I used that graphite lube on the cam, and then the red break-in lubes, assembly lubes. I just chalk it up as that, burn it off. So after this first startup, if you can burp this thing all the way and you get it started and it doesn't overheat on you, keep on that gas pedal and fluctuate it up and down between 1800 and 2200 RPMs. But watch your coolant temperature, because I had to do that cycle 3 times before I could actually run it without it overheating. But if you can do it without overheating, run that 20-30 minutes. It's very critical to make them lifters to the camshaft. So that's about it. I think I will grab the camera here and we'll go start it up, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. And I hope the battery is still got a charge in it. Let me set this down so I can climb in here. Now, I'm not going to do the whole 20-minute thing because I've already done it, but I do want to show you how I did it. So over here, up top's my oil pressure. It might be a little blurry. Maybe I can make it a little clearer. Maybe it's got something on the lens. Maybe. Here's my temperature on the bottom. On the other side is just gas and battery. But you can see the RPMs there. So, clutch in, stick in neutral, fire it up. Uh-oh. I think my wheel lock is... Whoa, shoot. All right, here we go. Fire it right up. About 2200 RPMs there. And I'm not going crazy like, okay, whoa, that's a little too low. I already did this, so it's not real bad, but try to control your foot. Like right there is about 1800 RPMs. You get used to it after a minute. But watch your gauges. Oil pressure is good. I like where it's at. Temperature, I'm not even going to run until it's hot enough to do that, but keep your RPMs there between 1800 and 2200. That's about 2200 there. You just move your foot slow. I'm doing a little fast right now because I can't hold my foot steady enough. Whoa, tools are falling. But as you can see, I'm gonna let off the gas here, and this thing is running like a champ. It started on the first attempt too. Nothing sounds weird. Everything's nice. The funky smells are gone because all that assembly lube burned out. So anyhow, what's up?